October is here, so you know what that means. Pumpkin flavored everything is all around us. And when it comes to beer, pumpkin can be quite polarizing. But today, I have a beer that may just convert those pumpkin haters. This Pumpkin Spiced Latte Stout is bursting with roasty coffee flavors and just a pinch of spice character that makes this one of the best pumpkin beers I've ever tasted. I'm Trent Musho, and this is The Brew Show. Let's brew a PSL Stout.
Order up for brush show.
Last year I made a pumpkin amber ale, a recipe that I've been perfecting for years. It really is one of the better pumpkin ale recipes I've tried, and it actually calls for roasted pumpkin. But this time around, I wanted to try something different. Often pumpkin flavored foods or drinks don't use pumpkin at all. Instead, they use a pumpkin spice blend that gives the impression of flavors associated with pumpkin pie. Pumpkin spice is a mix of cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, allspice, and clove.
By your powers combined, I am
Pumpkin Spice! One of the most notorious examples of this is the Pumpkin Spice Latte. While nowadays the big coffee companies claim to use real pumpkin, the flavor is really all about the spices. But for some reason, it works. The mix of warming spices balanced against the bitter and roasty espresso flavor make for an amazing combo, as long as you don't have too much sugar in it. So as I was sipping on a PSL, I had a thought. Maybe this could make a fantastic beer. Coffee goes great with stouts, and the spices, as long as you use a soft touch, can complement the beer nicely. And boy was I right. But before I get too ahead of myself, let's jump into the brew day. For this recipe, I'm making a 5-gallon batch using the brew in a bag method. As always, I'll have the recipe and products I use in the description box. To start, I heat up 6 gallons of water to about 163 degrees. To the water, I'm adding some water adjustments to improve the flavor. Here's the water profile I'm aiming for. If you're not familiar with water chemistry, be sure to check out my simplified explainer video, where I talk about adding salts to your water to improve the flavor. Once the water is heated up, I add the grain bag and then the grains. For that, I'm using 80% Halcyon. Shout out to Peter over at Genus Brewing for sending this my way. He calls Halcyon the greatest malt ever, and this is my first time using it, but supposedly it gives a great breadiness to the beer, similar to Maris Otter. 8% Flaked Oats, also called old-fashioned oats at grocery stores. This will add to the mouthfeel of the beer. Flaked oats don't need to be crushed in the mill. They can go right into the mash. 6% Roasted Barley for the color contribution and the distinctive roasted coffee notes it gives. And 6% Chocolate Malt, also for its color and the added chocolate and coffee-like flavor and aroma. I plan to mash at 156 for 45 minutes, a little bit higher temp than normal, to promote a sweeter, more full finish on this beer without too much residual sweetness. Give it a good mix and cover for 45 minutes. After the 45 minutes, I pull the grains. With the bag resting on top of a wire rack, I then sparge or rinse the grains with 1.5 gallons of water. I'm doing this since my kettle won't fit all the grains and water at one time. This allows me to reach my desired volume and rinse the grains at the same time. Then I bring the wort to a boil for 45 minutes. Once the boil started, I add 2 ounces of East Kent Goldings for roughly 41 IBUs. EKG to me adds a slight floral and earthiness that will pair nicely with the coffee flavors. What are your thoughts on pumpkin beers? What other fall flavors do you like to play with? Let me know in the comments. At the 15-minute mark, I drop in the wort chiller. Then at the end of the timer, I turn off the heat and add in the star ingredient, pumpkin spice. I'm going for 2 tablespoons. In my experience, this is plenty for it to come off as a faint flavor addition and not pound you over the head with intense spice flavor. I think we've probably all been there and had an overly spiced pumpkin beer. No thanks. Once it's all in and fully dissolved, I turn on the wort chiller to cool down the wort, and I also take an original gravity reading, which I got 1.061. And once the worts cool down to about 67 degrees, I transfer into a fermenter. I just got this Anvil bucket fermenter, and so far it's been great. Thanks to a lot of you for the recommendation after watching my How to Choose a Fermenter video. For yeast, I'm going with SafAle SO4 English Ale Yeast. It's my favorite for stouts, but you could go for whatever ale yeast you like for dark beers. I'll ferment this around 67 degrees for a week. I'm also testing out this cooling coil the Anvil sells to keep fermentation temps down. Once I've had some more experience with it, I'll let you know more about my thoughts. With that, I add an airlock and patiently wait 1 week. After 7 days total fermentation, airlock activity had stopped. I haven't brewed in a stainless fermenter, so the anticipation how this looks is killing me. So I took a final gravity reading and got 1.012, meaning this one comes in at about 6.4% ABV. We officially have beer. And taking a taste, it was really lovely. I was excited to get it kegged up and taste it with some carbonation. I purged the keg with CO2, then opened it up and transferred the beer in. Once it was filled, I closed it and then burst carbonated at 40 psi for 24 hours before reducing the pressure down to about 8 psi, at which point I was ready to put back a few of these PSL stouts. All right, I love this beer. It is absolutely beautiful. The color is an extremely midnight black. Like, I am not seeing any color through it, even when I hold it up to the light. Usually on some of these darker beers, you can get like a red color, but on this, pitch black. And the head on it is a almost toffee-like color. It smells honestly like you just walked into a coffee shop. Those coffee aromas are really coming through, and at the back of that is a slight bit of that spice, the warming notes. I'm getting the cinnamon, a little bit of clove. It smells absolutely delicious. Let's go on for a sip. And just as I expected, the coffee is the dominant flavor here. Those roasted malts and chocolate malt really add to the flavor, give it that almost burnt toast and fresh brewed coffee. I actually debated adding in actual coffee to this, but once I took a sip, I felt like there was plenty of coffee flavor. But if you wanted even more coffee flavor, you could always add like 8 ounces of espresso and see how that tastes. And again, at the end, I get the hint of warming spices. It's not in your face like you can get on some of those pumpkin beers where it really becomes undrinkable. This is just slightly kissed with pumpkin spice. I think anybody that is hesitant of trying pumpkin beers would absolutely love this. Those pumpkin spice flavors are balanced out by the coffee, which really makes this have more character than a one-dimensional pumpkin beer. And if you don't like pumpkin, well, then you're in luck, because there's actually no pumpkin in it. It's just the pumpkin spice flavors, and even still, there's not a lot. And honestly, it's way better than anything you'll get at a coffee shop. If you're looking to see more fall flavored homebrews, be sure to subscribe. I got a lot more planned for the coming months. And I also want to announce that I started a merch store. So if you're looking for a way to support the channel, it's a great way to do so. There's a link in the description. Happy fall, happy brewing, and cheers.